Welcome to the Skip and Shannon Undisputed podcast. I'm Joy Taylor. You can catch us Monday through Friday at 9:30 a.m. Eastern, 6:30 Pacific on FS1. Here's what this podcast is all about. It's an unscripted, unfiltered, undisputed version of the day's show, and there is a lot to get into in today's podcast. Skip thinks if Dak Prescott has another tough game on Sunday, we will see Tony Romo next week in Dallas. Shannon believes Richard Sherman speaking out against his coach should be done behind closed doors. The guys both agree that last night Seattle was not that impressive. Plus, FS1 NFL analyst Cris gives some deep personal perspective on the Mike Floyd situation and why a new team can help kick some of his off-the-field demons. Mr. No Way, No How himself, Rob Parker, is here to say why the wheels are going to fall off the Dallas to the Super Bowl train. Finally, all three of us take time to reflect on the life and influence of NBA reporter Craig Sager. A rainy day here in Los Angeles.
Rainy.
It's okay.
Los Angeles?
Shannon loves the rain.
Only the second time since May, Skip, and you're complaining.
Yeah, I am. I came here for the sunshine.
You've got it for like 100 straight days, Skip.
Yeah.
I mean, I think one day of rain won't dampen everything.
I've never met anyone who cares more about the weather than you do. In California, where it's always sunny.
Good morning, Joy. How are you doing?
I'm doing great.
How are you, Skip, today? You good?
I'm wet.
Oh, did you walk to work this morning?
Yeah.
Basically.
I ran to work.
Yesterday, Troy Aikman went on a Dallas radio station and said he was, quote, dumbfounded by Jerry Jones' latest comments on Dak Prescott and Tony Romo. Aikman said that if it was up to Jerry, Romo might be the starter right now. Jerry Jones then responded yesterday afternoon. Let's take a listen.
We completely support Dak as our starting quarterback, unequivocally. And so that's that. And there's no issue there at all. We're very fortunate, and I've said that we have depth there. And you've certainly got depth in a big way when you got Tony Romo sitting there, and that's not trying to be cute.
Right.
It's absolutely in our best interest that Dak, who is absolutely playing at a level for a rookie that has probably never been seen. And we want him to be able to use that and some degree of it to help us go all the way to the Super Bowl.
Shannon, I have a feeling you love this, but what's your take?
I'm not as crazy as people originally called me. When all these Cowboy supporters and fans said I was crazy, I was just wanting a hot take.
You're reading Twitter too much.
I got to, Skip. I got to. Skip, you know what? Got me, I'm up to almost 149,000 followers.
Good for you.
Thanks to you. I'm going to catch you in the next 3 years. I'm going to catch you. Skip, I've been saying what Troy said for 2 months. Why is Jerry always trying to get Tony Romo's name into the conversation when he's talking about the Cowboys? Now, all Jerry had to do was say that he unequivocally supports Dak Prescott 2 months ago, and this is not an issue. But you know what, Skip? It took Troy Aikman, somebody that Jerry Jones trusts, who he loves. Troy has a unique perspective. He has something that very few quarterbacks other than Roger Staubach can say. They've been the quarterback of that team. They've led that team to multiple Super Bowls. They've been the MVP in those games. So Jerry has the utmost respect for him. And for Troy to say, I'm dumbfounded. I don't get what Jerry's doing. This young man is playing so well. Why do you keep bringing Tony Romo's name up into this conversation? You're making it much more difficult on this young man than it needs to be. And finally, you know what? It dawned on Jerry. And I said this before also. If it was up to Jerry Jones, Tony Romo would have been the quarterback. But I think Stephen Jones and maybe Jason Garrett and maybe some other people said, Jerry, come on, Jerry. Not now. This is not the time.
I'm not sure about Jason Garrett, but I agree on Stephen. Yes.
Not now. And I think he trusts Stephen a little bit more because Stephen turned down to Johnny Manziel. He said we should go for a lineman. He had a lot to do with taking Ezekiel Elliott.
Yep.
So I'm not surprised. I just think if Jerry had done this 2 years ago, it would have been a moot point, an issue at this time. But it only became an issue, and it only kept growing because Jerry Jones wouldn't let it die.
So, as you point out, you've been saying this for 2 months, and I'm pretty sure I've been saying the same thing for at least 2 months, right? Ha, ha, ha. And yet, Jerry doesn't care what you say, and he really doesn't care what I say. I think he respects what I say. He said that before, but he doesn't really take it to heart. But when somebody on the inside, when his Hall of Fame quarterback, Troy Aikman, steps up and speaks the glaring truth publicly, that hits home.
Yep.
That hurts. That stings. And it forced Jerry, it triggered a response in Jerry to lash back at Troy Aikman, which is pretty surprising to me. And I'll interpret that in just a second. But I want to publicly thank Troy Aikman for having the guts to step up. He lives in Dallas, and it's not the most popular thing to do, and say, and to call out Jerry on his repeated public mistreatment of this kid who's won 11 straight games this year. 11, it's just unheard of.
11 of 13.
It's impossible. But he won 11 in a row as a rookie quarterback, fourth rounder. Started the year as basically a third string quarterback. And I appreciated the fact that Jerry finally got called out from the inside. So Jerry lashed back with talking about how nobody on our team is fragile. Dak is not fragile. Dak can handle this. Dak's not going to, he's not going to be distracted by this. And then the key line was, Troy might have had some sensitivity, but Dak doesn't. Here's what happened. And I wrote a number of books about all this. So I think
you're more than qualified.
Yes, I'm pretty qualified to speak of this. Just remember, Troy Aikman was drafted first overall by Jerry and Jimmy Johnson when they took over the Cowboys out of UCLA, obviously. And Jimmy Johnson, who had won a national championship at Miami with Steve Walsh at quarterback, turned right around in the supplemental draft that summer and took #1 overall, Steve Walsh. And I felt for Troy, man, because now you go to camp as the #1 overall pick, and there's another #1 overall pick in the supplemental who's going to compete with you for the job.
Correct.
And that guy's the pet of the new head coach. Well, you don't think that's a rough spot? So Troy knows what of he speaks, where he feels a little threatened by the other quarterback.
Right.
And Jimmy loves Steve Walsh. And Steve Walsh, that first year, won the only game they won in their 1-15 year at Washington against the defending Super Bowl champions and Doug Williams. That was a Steve Walsh game.
Yep.
And then Troy struggled in the second year after Steve Walsh was traded to New Orleans. And Troy went through it again in his third year in the league when he got hurt, had a sprained knee, and Steve Berline, a fine backup quarterback, took over, and they won 4 in a row to finish the season, made the playoffs, went up and beat Jim Harbaugh and Mike Ditka in Chicago in a playoff game. And Jimmy would not go back to Troy, and he was ready to go. The doctors had signed off. You can play. And they played a second game, got blown out in Detroit. But that stung Troy. So Troy knows how it feels to not have the support of either the head coach or the owner. And so in this case, he's feeling for Dak because Troy went through it.
Yes.
And he gets it. So he's calling out Jerry Jones, who's firing back, well, you were a little more sensitive when you were a quarterback. Dak's sensitive too. I mean, you don't think he's human?
Quarterback.
Come on.
Skip.
My
You've been
God.
around this game long enough. You know quarterbacks have huge egos. They have huge sensitivity
Because
issues.
it's so hard to
Right.
play.
But they're protected. They're two people that word and conversation carries more meaning in Dallas than Jerry Jones.
Yep.
Troy Aikman and Roger Staubach. When they talk, people listen.
You got it.
Because they played quarterback for that team. They live in that city and they won Super Bowl, so they are revered.
They are.
And so when Troy said what he said, Jerry Jones had no choice because he knew all those listeners, they believed everything Troy had said.
Yep. I
So
agree.
when he said that, Jerry had to respond. And he had to respond in which he did, says, I unequivocally back Dak Prescott.
Just support him. He wasn't saying he's the unequivocal starter.
Right.
He just said, I support him unequivocally.
Yeah.
Really? Well, I hadn't noticed that over the last
No
5
one
or 6
noticed
weeks,
that.
right?
And let me ask you a question. If Troy had not said what he said, would Jerry have ever said what he said?
No. Nope. And finally.
Jerry, that was a low blow too, though, Skip. That was a low blow on Jerry's part.
It was.
That was a low blow.
And you know, speaking of low blows, I let this go the other day, and I can't help myself. I got to call back the quote from a couple of days ago.
Okay.
When Jerry was asked, under what scenario could he see Tony Romo replacing Dak Prescott? And he harked back to that 1964 quote from the Supreme Court Justice Potter Stewart
Yes.
about pornography. I know it when I see it. And he paraphrased that quote. And I'm like, Jerry, wait a minute. You just compared the situation of your rookie quarterback to pornography. I'll know it when I see it. When it's time to replace him.
Can't explain it.
Yeah, you can't explain it, but I'll know it when I see it.
Right.
So you're comparing Dak Prescott's potential demise to pornography. How disrespectful can you be? And he didn't mean any harm by it, but it's just Jerry being Jerry.
Right.
But he just can't help himself. He can't keep reopening the Tony Romo door.
Right.
And I'm here to tell you, if Dak has another rookie game Sunday night at home against Tampa Bay and they lose, I think we're going to see Tony Romo against Detroit on the following Monday night at Jerry World.
The only way you can get into a home is if you go through the door or something is open. You just can't magically get inside. Tony Romo cannot get back into this lineup unless Jerry keeps opening the door.
Mm-hmm.
And he keeps opening the door because he said it, Skip, it would be a disappointment to him if they were to go and win the Super Bowl. If Tony is not a part of it, if Tony is not a part of this championship chase, it would hurt him. It would be a disappointment. How do you put hurt, disappointment with winning in the same sentence? I just don't get it, because I thought at the end of the day, the bottom line business of professional sports is about winning. Who you win with, how you win is normally unimportant, but it's very, very important to Jerry, because Jerry, all of us, at the end of the day, Skip, we seek validation. When you play this game and you think you played at a high enough level, the validation that you ultimately seek is from 48 men and women that's going to put you in Canton. That's the ultimate validation for a player.
It is.
In any professional sport, that's the ultimate validation. Job well done. Mm-hmm. For Jerry, the ultimate validation, because he believed in Tony Romo was a franchise quarterback when everybody else said you're crazy. He gave him the $108 million,
he did.
the 55 guarantee, and I can win with that guy. So if he were to win a Super Bowl with Tony Romo, that would, I believe, in his estimation, that would be his greatest achievement. Because even though they won the 3 Super Bowls before, Jimmy gets all the credit. And even though he won one with Barry Switzer, that was Jimmy's team.
Yep.
This is all Jerry. Jerry went to bat for Tony Romo. Jerry vouched for him.
He did.
And when you vouch for somebody for $108 million, you really vouching for him.
He still worked Tony Romo into this quote. He said he supports Dak, but he still managed to work Tony Romo into it and mention how it's a good situation.
Help himself.
No mercy. Let's get it started off in the NFL. The Seahawks beat the Rams 24-3 last night, but the bigger story was Richard Sherman. Sherman was upset with Pete Carroll and offensive coordinator Darrell Bevell after the Seahawks chose to throw on the 1-yard line to Jimmy Graham instead of running the ball. The play resulted in an incomplete pass. After the game, Sherman defended his stance on the play call. Let's take a listen.
I don't like when we throw the ball at the 1. We throw an interception at the 1. You know, luckily it went incomplete, and I wasn't going to let them continue to do that.
Were you having that chat with Bevel, or who were you?
I was letting Pete know.
Oh, you were. Oh.
Yeah, I was making sure Pete knew that we're not comfortable with you throwing the ball at the 1. I'd rather do what most teams would do and make a conscientious decision, run the ball straight up the middle. We've already seen how that goes. We've seen that. I'm sure you guys have seen that play enough times.
Do you feel like, the players don't usually scream at coaches for certain calls? Is that your place to do that, you think?
100%. We go out there, we sacrifice, we battle. You don't give away our battle. You honor our sacrifice.
Skip, do you have a problem with what Richard Sherman said?
Probably doesn't matter whether I have a problem with it, but Pete Carroll should have an enormous problem with it, because I don't know about you, but I've been covering this game for a long time. You've played it for a long time. This is unheard of to me. This is unprecedented to me. This is very dangerous and a threat to the chemistry and unity and final say of the head coach of this football team, because this wasn't a quarterback questioning the play calling philosophy. That happens occasionally during the game. This was a defensive player and a team leader in the middle of the game going to the head coach on the sideline and telling the head coach that play call is unacceptable. We, meaning the team, will not stand for that anymore. You will not do that again, Pete Carroll. He was serious about this. He's saying, we have sacrificed too much to get you to the 1-yard line. You can't waste our battle, as he called it, our sacrifice on the field. And I think Richard Sherman is telling the head coach of the Seattle Seahawks that the players should have final say over ultimate play calls. And if Pete Carroll doesn't somehow discipline Richard Sherman for this, somehow reprimand him in front of the team, I don't mean publicly, but in front of the team in private, I think Pete Carroll's in danger of losing this football team, of losing control of this football team. And look, I realize that Richard Sherman is still bitter and still raw over what happened on 2nd and goal from the 1 2 Super Bowls ago. Obviously, an interception happened that cost them the Super Bowl trophy. But that doesn't give him play-calling veto power over his head coach. And let's frame what happened last night. I thought Richard was out of line because I thought he was wrong. And Richard has a high football IQ, but the Los Angeles Rams had lost 4 defensive backs to injury through the course of that game up to that point in the 3rd quarter. And on 1st and goal from the 1-yard line, the play was called a pass play to a Jimmy Graham who is 6 feet 7 inches tall and, dare I say, as dangerous a red zone target
Absolutely.
as there is, right?
Yes.
So they're down to nothing but backup DBs, and you're throwing it to the 6'7" guy. I think that's a pretty good. I think that's a good idea. It's a pretty good call. And a linebacker from Baylor named Bryce Hager made a terrific play on the ball, and we'll talk about that in just a minute. But on 2nd down, Richard Sherman got his wish. They handed it to 250-pound Marcel Reese. Boom, into the line, and he goes nowhere for no gain because the primary back, Thomas Rawls, in that game had gotten 34 total yards. He wound up with 34 total yards on 21 carries. That's what, 1.6 yards per try?
That is exactly
That's how strong that Rams front is. So it might not be the best idea on 2nd and goal from the 1 to give it to the fullback. So on 3rd and goal from the 1, what did they give it to the fullback or give it to Thomas Rawls as Richard Sherman wanted? No. Guess what? They threw a quick fade to Doug Baldwin's flanked left on some backup DB I'd never heard of before, and he just embarrassed the kid, just smoked him, and it was just an easy pitch and an easy catch for the touchdown. Guess what? It was a pass play. So Richard Sherman was not only out of line, but I thought he was wrong and wrong and wrong again because they called 3 right plays. Those are the 3 plays I would have gone to under the circumstances in that game at that point. So it is now up to Pete Carroll to respond behind closed doors to Richard Sherman.
I don't have a problem with what he did. I have a problem with where he did it. This is something that could have been and should have been voiced behind closed doors. Pete Carroll, Darrell Bevell, and even Russell Wilson can say we've moved on as much as they want to. They have not moved on from that. You will never, because there have only been 50 Super Bowl winners.
Yep.
The winners and losers are chronicled forever. And Richard Sherman realizes just how close they were to being back-to-back. Mike Shanahan, my former coach in Denver, would always say, guys, a lot of teams have won 1 in a row. If you want to be special, follow it up with another one. Because we've seen so few teams actually do that in the 50-year history that they've been playing Super Bowls.
And by the way, we've never seen anyone win 3 in a row.
Right,
and
right.
You guys had a chance, but your quarterback decided to check it out.
I've had enough. So back-to-back accomplishments would have fulfilled what this defense, because no matter how well Russell plays, this is a defensive-based football team. And over the last 4 years, they've been the most dominant. They have a 4-year stretch that will rival anyone's on that side of the football in the history of the National Football League.
I agree.
See, but you have to be careful, Skip, because if a quarterback, because we just saw Monday night, Tom Brady ring Julian Edelman on the sideline because he thought he broke off a route.
Yeah.
That's viewed as leadership. Richard Sherman does that. Odell Beckham or Dez Bryant, that's a distraction. They're being a detriment to the team. So we need to be careful and stop viewing what quarterbacks do as always as leadership or quarterbacks we like. Because if Aaron Rodgers does that, we're not viewing it as leadership. We're viewing it as, oh, okay, he's trying to show up one of his guys because he feels he's the better player. Second, why would Richard do this on the sidelines? This is what I've always felt. If I had a problem with a coach, if I had a problem with a teammate of mine, whatever I wanted to say, it could be behind closed doors. I understand, and people are like, this is an emotional game, and sometimes, and I get when emotions is high or are high, sometimes logic is low. but I always remember, because whatever I do on the sideline is going to be captured there forever. And we can never put that genie back into the bottle. I do not want to embarrass him, and I don't want him to embarrass me. So if I ever had a problem with a coach or a player, quarterback, it didn't matter. Whatever the problem was, it could wait till after the game. We could talk about it after the game in the locker room, or we could wait till Monday to get this thing resolved. Because I never wanted people to see that there was confrontation. Because this guy, he's on my team. We're fighting the same guy, which is the guy across the field.
Yep.
So I do not want the fans, I don't want people at home that's watching to make it to appear that I'm fighting my own teammate. No, that's not the fight I want to have there. So I'm going to address this with you at a later date and time, and I do not want to come off as being a distraction or being, causing conflict. But, Skip, I've been there, and I know what guys say publicly, and I know what guys say in the locker room. And I said it after this happened. They will never, ever get over that call. Mm-hmm. And Richard Sherman just reconfirmed what I said the next day, because I did a podcast. They're not getting over this. They're not. And they can win another Super Bowl, but you know what they're going to say? It should be 3 instead of 2.
Yeah.
But Pete is giving them this open door, Skip. Pete has let these guys voice their opinion publicly.
He is the ultimate players coach.
Right. So there's no putting this back.
Okay, but you know and I know there has to come a final line where somebody has to be in charge. And I've never seen a team win with the players in charge. I just haven't seen it.
No, there has to be a line in which the players know they can. Look, Mike Shanahan, I would mimic him, get up in front of the team before he would arrive and joke. But I knew how far to take it. I could joke with Mr. B. I would get shorts and cut him up and steal his glasses out of his office. But I knew how far to take it. Mr. Bolin, the owner. But I also knew how far to take it. But that was behind closed doors. So you showing you voicing this now. No matter how much of a player's coach Pete Carroll is, he's still coach. That's what you call him, player's coach. But his title is coach. It doesn't say Seattle's head players coach Pete Carroll. It says head coach Pete Carroll. And he should always, no matter what you think, he's still an authoritative figure. And you should always pay him the ultimate respect, especially in public. Now, if you want to get behind closed doors and it's not going to go any further between you, him, and the desk, so be it. But doing this publicly, that's the only problem that I have. Where he did it, not that he did it.
And remember, he did that publicly on the sideline, and then he went to the locker room, and you can say to his credit, he didn't run from it.
Yes.
But instead of saying, that's between Pete and me,
right,
he just spilled.
He unloaded.
We won't stand for this.
Right.
Nope. I went to him and said, this team will not stand for that anymore.
Yeah, I don't
Wow.
Boy,
you've really called him out twice, on the sideline and after the game. And you talked about Richard yesterday. He's pushing the envelope with his cheap shots. Now he's pushing the envelope with his challenging of the head coach.
Yeah.
Whew, man.
I don't know if we won't accept that. We won't stand for that. Nah, he ain't speaking for me, coach. That's Richard. Richard's not speaking for me on that one.
It seems like a weird strategy. So they're just never going to throw it on the one again?
I hope.
I mean, if I'm the other team, I know what they're doing.
Yeah.
Richard Sherman won't allow it.
No mercy.
The Patriots claimed former Cardinals wide receiver Michael Floyd off waivers yesterday, a day after he was released by Arizona. Floyd was arrested on charges of driving under the influence and failure to obey a police officer on Monday morning. Floyd has 33 catches and 4 touchdowns this season. We're joined by FS1 NFL analyst Cris Carter. Cris, good morning. Welcome.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Do you have a problem? Well, I'll start with Shannon, actually. Do you have a problem with the Patriots bringing in Michael Floyd?
I do, because it seems that anything the Patriots do is looked at as Coach Belichick's being shrewd. And I've seen other teams shy away from signing players with this kind of behavior. Now, remember, although he signed Michael Floyd, he didn't sign him, he claimed Michael Floyd off of waivers. He traded Chandler Jones in the offseason because he was a pending free agent, and he had questionable off-field behavior. Now, he traded him because I don't want that kind of distraction. And Chandler Jones' production was way up here. Normally, Cris, When production is high,
Right.
so is tolerance. Tolerance will never, ever supersede production. In Michael Floyd's case, his production wasn't matching his tolerance level. Now remind you now, Michael Floyd had issues at Notre Dame. He had a DUI, he had 2 underage drinking, and then on the flight back from, he said he had a couple of glasses of wine on the plane back from Miami. So he was arrested early Monday morning in Arizona. They released him Tuesday, whatever it is. But the problem that I have is that we're willing to overlook anything the Patriots do because they win. Coach Belichick is looked at as being a shrewd coach, negotiator, as far as eye for talent. And I get it, because at the end of the day, no matter what you think of a player, no matter what you think of a team, and I want people to listen closely, teams are not trying to rehab and rehabilitate. Football is a bottom line business. Can you help me win football games? It's a results-based business. Can you help me win? If you can, your transgressions, I'm willing to overlook. If you can't, I'm going to move on without you. That's my only problem. Because we've seen this before, and we've seen teams get crucified about signing players that have off-field issues, especially so close. Now, maybe in the offseason, clearly the guy has a problem. And maybe after once he goes to and gets his problem resolved, he gets a second chance. I'm not saying he doesn't deserve a second chance, because I believe he does. But this is real close, and if it was someone other than the New England Patriots, I'm not so sure this would have gone over as well as it did.
Fire away.
Well, Shannon, I totally disagree with you. And the number one thing is because the NFL, we are in the help business. And the reason why, players like ourselves, from the backgrounds we came from, with the little bit of knowledge we know about life, the NFL saved us. It was our respite. It gave us an opportunity to be able to experience things for us and our family that we would never been able to do.
Correct.
I communicated with Steve Keim, the general manager in Arizona, yesterday. And they've done a tremendous amount of work with players. Look at Honey Badger. And the things that they go out, they're one of the franchises that go out of their way to be able to service their players, because it's not only about your talent and your skill, it's about your character. Because your ability to cover or catch a ball or throw a ball or tackle, it says nothing about your character as a man. So as long as the National Football League is drafting young players, they're going to be in the rehab and the character business. They're going to have to be, because we're getting a lot of damaged goods coming into the league. So there's no way that we can look and be hypocritical about someone like Michael. So I have no problem with Bill Belichick. I'm glad someone claimed him. The reason why is because he's still in the NFL program. He's still in the NFL protocol. He still has insurance. He can still get help. And the number one way when you have a problem with addiction, substances being alcohol or drugs, is stability. And your ability to go to work as a man with your pride and make an income for your family. So I totally disagree with you. I'm glad he's employed today, because I know now he's going to be put under some different guidelines if he wants to play. Because Bill Belichick, what's his number one thing, Skip? Do your job. So part of him doing his job is him staying clean and staying sober. So I respectfully disagree, because myself and my own track record, I'm in the help business. I'm in the help people business. And Bill Parcells taught me this. He said, Cris, when you're a coach or a general manager, you're in the talent acquisition business in the NFL. No matter how you get it, draft, free agent, CFL, people off the street.
Here's a guy for the Arizona Cardinals. Now remember, Michael Floyd had played so well, they moved Larry Fitzgerald from the outside into the slot. So Michael Floyd, Fitzgerald in the slot, and John Brown. This is what they thought of him. If he was putting up Julio Jones or Antonio Brown number, would they have released him?
That's a judgment call. But the thing is,
CC.
He's got 4 touchdowns. He's got 5 drops. He's in the last year of his contract. Okay. So are they going to give him a big contract? Is Larry Fitzgerald? All those things come into play. Also, what he's doing on a daily basis, we don't see that. But I trust Steve and the staff there, Bruce Arians.
But they released him.
Yeah, well, they had to.
Why? There's no saying that you have to release somebody because they get a DUI.
Well, at some point, everyone got a release point. Everyone got to give up point.
Oh, but I clearly agree with that.
And we don't know that.
You mentioned Honey Badger. If Honey Badger couldn't cover, because you got to realize he finished like way up in the Heisman Trophy race. He got us kicked off the team because of the marijuana issue. It's called production intolerance. And I don't care whatever you do. If you can produce, because we've seen guys in the National Football League get DUIs and kill a female, kill a woman, and they get back. And we've seen guys that, for whatever reason, if Ray Rice with Adrian Peterson could run the block like Adrian Peterson, you and I both know, CC, he would be in the league.
Okay, do you think Michael Floyd, if no one claims him, you think he's going to stop drinking? You still think the roads are safe?
No.
You think people are safer?
But so let me ask you a question. Is he going to stop drinking because the Patriots signed him?
Well, that's a decision he's going to have to make.
I've been saying that, CC. You keep saying this.
Listen, I'm just going to tell you with my history as far as addiction and alcoholism, I'm telling you it's a better environment for him to be working than him not to be working.
But at the end of the day, what caused CC to do it? CC wanted to stop.
Listen,
where you go for a job doesn't change, CC.
You're right about that. We don't. When you get sick and tired of being in your situation, all right, and Bill Belichick might be that. He was that for Randy Moss on a different level. Mm-hmm. He's been that way for some other players.
Oh, a whole bunch of players. So the last thing you will ever hear me do is to defend someone driving drunk. Obviously, he endangered X number of human beings along his route home that night. He's done this twice now in his life. But I point out, as you did, he had 2 citations for underage drinking back in Minneapolis. And then at Notre Dame, the year before his final year, he was twice the legal limit of alcohol and ran a stop sign a block from the Notre Dame campus and got busted. And he paid the price for it. He was probation for a year, had to go to counseling, had to sit through a panel of victims of drunk driving. So he did his quote-unquote penance, and he was off the football team for the whole offseason for 4.5 months. Came back, had a big year, got drafted 13th overall, and there were certainly some red flags about it, but he seemed okay. And then he's played for, this is his 5th year, so I don't know. Maybe you know more about his background, but I don't know that he's had any other issues besides this issue. This is the only public issue he's had in 5 years. Okay, so it's not repeated drunk driving through his time in Arizona, right?
Yes.
But this year, more trouble than worth. As you point out, big drops started to cancel out big catches. Too many big drops. And finally, they just said enough because he's going to be a free agent. The team is crumbling. And they just said, okay, we're embarrassed by you now because he's fallen asleep at the wheel, sitting in.
Two green lights. Two green lights.
Okay, so he embarrassed the organization, and the organization just said, you know what? He's not in our plans anyway. He's out of our plans. And Bill Belichick has had a long history. He's been Al Davis East, right? I think he sort of learned from the master here. It's a talent business, talent acquisition, and you take high risks with high rewards. Because Aaron Hernandez, I thought he was high risk coming out of Florida. Yes. I think they knew he was high risk, and they won for a while, right? Yes. For a while. Aqib Talib was high risk, and your Broncos took another risk on him, right? Alfonso Dennard, Dante Stallworth, Corey Dillon. I can go on and on. He's had a long history of doing this. And for the most part, he's won with a lot of these guys, right?
Yes.
So I can't condemn him for taking a shot on still a young man. He's a young man with big talent, 13th pick in the draft kind of talent. They do not have a number 1 receiver. And you rent him for $1.2 million. Pretty cheap deal for the rest of this year. You make your Super Bowl run. Maybe he contributes or maybe he doesn't. Maybe Brady clicks with him or maybe Brady says he doesn't get it. He can't, he's not on my page yet. He's not on my wavelength. But you have a talent that you don't have. And obviously Amendola's got an issue and Gronk's gone. Yeah. So why wouldn't you take a shot? Because he's still eligible to play pro football right now.
Yes.
Now, again, the league might step in.
Oh, they're going to step in.
The legal
next year.
Yeah, when the case is adjudicated.
But right now, he is eligible to play the rest of the year for $1.2 million. How can you condemn Bill Belichick for saying, I'm going to try that?
No, I don't know if it's necessarily I'm condemning Coach Belichick, but it's just funny to me that anything that he does, that it would be I'm not so sure that any other team could have signed this young man and not been condemned for it, knowing what we know about it.
Probably some truth to that.
So, and that's my look, and I'm just saying, production and tolerance. When your production is high, no matter what position you play, if you can produce, because pro sports is what? A results-based business. And if this guy can give me results, I'll tolerate anything. And T.O. is a prime example. T.O., as long as he was getting them 15 touchdowns and 1,500 yards, everybody, all that yelling and screaming on the sideline didn't bother a soul. But the moment he couldn't get me double-digit touchdowns and 1,000 yards, they were done with T.O. There's no question in my mind T.O. could have played another 3-4 years. But the tolerance level for him didn't meet the production. And so they said, we done.
Talent does have a lot to do with it. But as long as they're playing the National Football League, and they've been playing 97 years.
97.
They're going to be in the help me business. All right? And that comes right from Park Avenue. They're going to be helping players and trying to help players. And coaches are an extension of teachers. And that's what teachers do. They help students, and that's what Bill Belichick did. Like it, don't like it, he's helping Michael Floyd out because it could help his football team, but it's going to help him as a human being.
Well, Belichick said that Floyd will travel with the team to Denver, but it's unclear yet if he will be active for the game. So we'll keep an eye on that.
No mercy.
Dallas is hosting the 8-5 Bucs on Sunday night. The Cowboys have the best record in the NFC, while the Bucs are currently the 6th seed. Tampa Bay has won 5 straight games, their longest streak since the 2002 Super Bowl season. We're joined by Rob Parker, also known as Hooded Cowboy Hater.
Yeah.
Where'd that come from?
Not
Floyd?
appreciate that
From me.
tease.
Where'd that come from? Did you write in the teleprompter?
Are those Tampa colors? For a second, I thought you had Tampa.
Tampa
colors.
on? Is that the shirt, maybe?
Yeah, it's a little maroon.
little
I think you're
bit.
clear. Who's your pick?
I already know who he
What?
is.
How do you
Shocker.
know?
Shocker.
How do you know?
You have the right to switch in midstream right now.
I'm
you
not
going
going
to
to switch.
You can do it.
I'm not going to do
Just
it.
once in your life. You can
No,
pick Dallas.
let's do it. Tampa Bay, 24-17. And I know right now people are looking at the Cowboys. I know they just lost to the Giants. But, Skip, it's really a 2-game losing streak. Because that Minnesota game, they won, but they don't feel good about it. Am I right? And now here it is.
Wait, did that count as the 11th straight?
It did,
Okay,
but I'm
thank
just
you.
saying they don't feel good about it, Shannon. You know what I'm saying.
He does. I don't.
And here it is. Here it comes. And Skip, you remember the old TV show Dallas
Do I?
with JR and Sue Ellen and Bobby? Here it comes. It's about to be born right here because with this loss, here comes Jerry Jones.
Jock Ewing, isn't it?
Yes. It's all about to blow up in their face. And here's all the turmoil that takes us back there. But I want to say about Tampa Bay. Their 5 wins in a row and their record, what they've done, is pretty impressive when you really look at what they've done. They beat the Chiefs on the road, the Falcons, the Panthers, and they also have a win against Seattle where they beat them 14-5. So this is not like they're beating the also-rans and they don't have any serious wins. This team is for real.
You're right.
Dallas has some issues. Here it comes. The wheels are about to fall off. The first wheel of the Dallas to Super Bowl truck, bus, whatever you want to call it, Skip, falls off this week.
You're sputtering. You're all right.
Go ahead, Skip.
No, you go. You go. I want to hear it.
Well, Rob is
And
already-
you have the right to change in midstream also.
Why would I change?
Because you might want to be right.
I like
for
being
once.
right. And as Rob said, the wheels are about to fall off, and they're only going to fall off because Jerry is unscrewing the lug nuts. So he's already sabotaging his own opportunity because you already know what's going to happen, Skip. You hate it, and you were saying it, and in the back of your mind, you're like, please, Jerry, don't let me down because I know you're going to do this, but I can't ever say this publicly. I like what the Tampa has done. This 5-game winning streak, they've taken the ball away. Jameis Winston has played really, really well.
Mike Evans.
I love Mike Evans.
Mike Evans is having a tremendous season.
Against that used car in Dallas.
Yep.
You know, Odell.
You hear that, Brandon? You got called out again. Used car.
Odell
after what
Beckham-
you did to Odell last week.
Odell
4
Beckham
catches.
drove him around all week.
Yeah, he
drove
did.
him around,
Yeah.
chilling on him.
Skip, 4 catches. Did you see the game winner?
The game winner.
Oh, there you go.
I saw Barry Church, who was in church. And
Why
he never left church. I don't know what happened.
Why
to him.
won't you give Odell and Eli credit for that completion and
They
that
made
run?
one play.
Woo, get Odell. Go, Odell! Go!
I don't want to see that.
You
anymore.
know it's gone. I knew it.
Hold on.
Oh, that's cute.
That was
He
Michael
moved on.
Jackson.
Yeah, that's cute.
That was a Michael Jackson
You know what?
kick right there.
Hey.
You know what? Brandon Carr ran stride for stride with him and almost got him by the heels. In
That
fact, Odell said after the game, no one has ever chased me that well. He did say that.
All the things.
That's used
the only,
car.
The only thing Carr got is rug buns on his stomach for diving on that turf.
Yeah.
Ah, but he got
He had a
Charlie.
little bit of help from his safety.
No.
That would not have happened. You know it, and I know it.
Skip, this is the second best third down defense, and the Cowboys have been struggling on third down.
Struggling. That's an understatement.
Okay, but what they need to do, they must win on first and second because it can't be third and short. because if it's 3rd and short, you're going to be in for a long night.
Mm-hmm.
But I like the Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
Mm-hmm.
Hopefully they break out the creamsicle uniform. 2017.
2017. The Bucks stop here, right here.
Yeah, okay.
This is the week. I'm going to tell you, this is a true story. You know Ernestine very well. You know Ernestine.
Yep.
You know Ernestine.
Yes.
I told Ernestine the week of the Giants game, I don't love this game. In fact, 2 weeks before that, I was planning to pick the Giants to beat my Cowboys because I told you all year, there'll be one game that I'm going to pick against my team. But because of you, I let you get to me that week, and you got to my pride, and you rubbed me raw, and I finally said, nope, I got to ride with my guys. One more time, I'm riding against the grain here, against all odds, up to New York, the team that beat them 20-19, and they barely beat them again. What was it, 10-7? Is that all?
Did they win?
A whole lot to
10-7?
a few.
Seriously,
There you go.
10-7? So this is the game, now we're back on track, that I have loved from the start. This is the one where you get back in your groove because Tampa Bay cannot stop the run. I agree with what you said. You finally made some good points on this show. For the first time.
Finally?
Yeah,
I've been
I'm
on for
gonna
a
give
couple
you
of
that.
months. What are you saying?
You finally, you're right. Tampa Bay has played the best defense in the National Football League for 5 straight weeks. Yep. They're plus 14 takeaways, leads the NFL over the last 5 weeks. So they are playing at a hellacious high level on defense. And Gerald McCoy in the middle of that line. We saw Aaron Donald last night. I think Gerald McCoy is at least as destructive as Aaron Donald has been in the interior. But they're a little small at the linebacker spot. And my offensive line can just flat out bully people. And they're going to bully the Tampa Bay front. And Ezekiel Elliott's going to get back on track. He's going to have 120. And Dak throwing a clean, dry football because that ball was slush wet.
So that was the reason why he didn't play well?
You know what?
Okay,
He was inaccurate as I've seen him all year. In fact, the first time he was inaccurate was that game up at New York.
Yeah, but
it snowed all afternoon. And Eli went off after the game saying, you can't believe how hard it was to throw and catch the football. That's why the score was 10-7. Now Dak gets back on track at home. Dak attack. You're going to see it again. And again, it's going to be a lower scoring game. I'm going 23-14 home team. And Detroit comes next. They will beat Detroit. And all of a sudden, you're going to sit back and say, uh-oh, the Dallas Cowboys have home field advantage throughout the playoffs, which is going to make the Seahawks wind up in Dallas for one of those 2 playoff games.
See, I look at it differently. I think that they lose here, and then Tony Romo beats Detroit the week after.
You know what? I am with you if
they lose,
this happens. If they lose, I believe Tony Romo will be the starter. It's a Monday night game the following Monday night against Detroit.
So you agree?
I agree.
Okay,
So
I really believe that.
So let me ask you a question. The Cowboys will bully Tampa like they did Minnesota or the Giants? Which one are they going to bully Tampa?
Like they did the Ravens, like they did the Bengals. Remember, you guys both said, not you didn't, but you
That's
said.
That's a Super Bowl pick.
I know, it was your Super Bowl pick, the Bengals.
Oh, I forgot about that.
They came to Jerry World, and everybody said, uh-oh, that front 7, they got no shot against this. Nope, they had lots of shots because there were lots of big holes open. How about those Baltimore Ravens? Uh-oh, this is trouble. Nope, it wasn't trouble. Dak threw for 300 yards against the Baltimore Ravens.
But what did I say about the Giants? Mm-hmm. What did I say Janoris Jenkins was going to do?
I told you I agreed with you on that.
What did I say Olivier Vernon and the Snacks Harrison was going to do?
I didn't see that part.
Oh, I saw that. I saw that.
Yeah.
Woo!
Skip, I think you're living in the past. And I know it's this season.
This is a new world.
No. But the last couple of weeks with the Cowboys and what's going on and all the talk, and Tony Romo's healthy, throwing balls. It's all set up there.
Love it.
And Dak, if he's not on his game, you even admitted it. If he doesn't play well and they lose, he's out.
And Tony Romo has thrown another party. You hear about that, Skip?
This kid got so much pressure this week. Got so much pressure on him.
And finally, we keep overlooking the fact that my Dallas Cowboy defense is now 5th in the National Football League in points allowed. That is pretty great. Quietly great. They held Eli and Odell to 10 points up there.
But not the best, but not the biggest play of the game. They didn't.
It's a one-play game, and Dez Bryant couldn't make the one play.
Okay. So your defense is not as good. The mark of any great unit. Can you do what you need to do when you absolutely need to do it?
Yeah.
So when that number one offensive line, when you needed the first down, They say, nope, Zeke, you're not going to get it.
By the way, my other safety, J.J. Wilcox, is back healthy this week, so maybe things are starting to change. Here we go.
Mike Evans have 100 yards.
Yeah,
I bet
he probably will. He probably will, but they won't score more than 14 because you can't get it in the end zone against this bunch.
Eli did.
Did you leave up to your title?
He don't want
Noted Cowboy hater?
I'm not a Cowboy hater at all.
Rob has been with me on shows for what are we going back 10 years
2006.
10 years, and he not once in 10 years has he ever picked the Cowboys to win one game. So
they've won a few in 10
I
years.
picked him to win a bunch of games.
You
this year.
have not.
Yeah,
Maybe the Bears.
Skip,
right?
Skip, Cowboys and Patriots, or just
Huh?
Well, yes, both.
Yeah.
Well,
And now you're
both of them.
now you're gonna have to watch him in the Super Bowl.
Oh,
Yep.
no.
I'm not going to watch.
Because the Bengals are not going to be there.
No mercy.
The Seahawks clinched the NFC West with last night's win and broke a 3-game losing streak to the Rams. Russell Wilson threw 3 touchdown passes for Seattle. Now, Shannon, this is your Super Bowl pick. So
Yes.
how impressed were you with the Seahawks last
I
night?
wasn't really impressed because I just saw this team lose at home. Well, they lost 42-14, but at one point they were down 42-0.
The Rams.
That's the
Yeah.
Rams.
Yeah.
And that's without Julio Jones and Mohamed Sanu
Mm-hmm.
on the ball club. So I thought that Seattle would have. Now, we know what they represent. The Rams, they feel this is a division rival. They always play these guys tough. As Joy mentioned in the read, they had beaten them 3 straight times. So obviously they feel very comfortable playing Seattle, be it home or away. But I just thought with the way Seattle had looked over the last couple of games that they would get it together. But give to them credit now, it was a short week. But I just thought I would see more. I was a little surprised how poorly the defense played because Jared Goff hit a receiver right in his hand and he dropped a touchdown.
Kid Michael Thomas,
Right.
the rookie.
Yes, and then
He's gone, I
and
think.
Then he misses a guy that was wide open in the end zone.
Brian
he misses
Quick.
him.
He threw it behind him and his feet went out from under him, but it was you got to make that play. He's wide open.
And then you got.
And didn't he have like 3 hours to find him? Right?
Yes,
There was
yes,
no
all
pressure.
day.
Yeah.
And so I don't even know why he threw it behind him. He could have, I'm thinking to myself, I could have made that throw, and I hadn't played quarterback in a very long time. But I think I could have made that throw. And then they come back on 4th and 1. They don't get it, and they turn the ball over in Seattle.
Did it look to you like Seattle knew what the play was? They attacked that right flank like demons.
But why would you? For me, I prefer to give the ball to the running back coming forward as opposed to tossing it to him. Now he's going to have to turn his shoulders and get squared to come
that
down.
defense?
Yeah.
That defense can fly now.
Exactly. That's the one thing you want to hit it quick. So I wasn't overly impressed. And you know what, Skip? They missed Earl Thomas more than I even previously thought. I realized that Earl Thomas is the best free safety in football, and I call him the makeup because he can cover a lot of blemishes. But, man, to see guys running free in that secondary, it scares me. They do have 10 days off. They get the Cardinals at home, who always plays them tough. That's a division game. And then they own the road at the 49ers. I believe they went out and could possibly – I think they're going to finish 11-4-1 and be the number 2 seed. But they have some issues that they're going to have to get corrected before they be able to take this next step and say, you know what, we're ready to challenge for a Super Bowl.
I am with you. I was thoroughly unimpressed by your Seahawks last night. The final score, 24-3, is thoroughly misleading to me because it didn't feel like a 24-3 kind of game for all the reasons you just mentioned, those plays that you mentioned, and the fact that the Rams hung in that game for a long time. It was deep in the third quarter. Remember the play that we talked about that Richard was so upset about,
Right.
the 1st and goal play. Again, the linebacker, Bryce Hager, I thought he intercepted the ball. I thought he got it clean. I don't know. Can we see that play, please? And it got reviewed, and it did not get overturned, which shocked me. Remember, it's 10-3 at that point, Seattle, and the Rams might have had the ball 1st and 10 at the 20, going the other way. Here we go. And it looked like he toe-tapped both feet down, the linebacker, Bryce Hager.
I think, Skip, if they had given it to him on the field, they would have stayed with the call.
That toes in right there also. And did he have complete control? I thought he did have control going out of bounds. Boy, it's a close call. But again, I thought they would go Rams ball. And if it's Rams ball, 1st and 10 going the other way,
Right.
I don't know. It's a dicey game. It's 10-3. It could go either way at that point.
That's 7 points off the board.
Because all of a sudden, with Gurley and the kid quarterback, they're starting to see, they're starting to move the ball a little bit. So in the end, this is what drove me a little nuts. They're up 24-3 with 5:22 to go, and they run a fake punt? Are you kidding me? So Pete Carroll is saying, I'm going to run this right down your throat. I'm going to run up the score on you. I'm going to rub it in on you, and I'm going to hopefully get our guys to feel like the big bad bullies again. Is that what you want to do? I don't know. 24-3 and you run a fake punt?
You see what he got this punter?
Well, he got him
got
whacked.
Because that's what will happen. And I'm a firm believer. Look, play, but don't do any gadgets. You're already up 24-3. The game has been determined. This is what you're going to get. You're going to get guys taking cheap shots. Yep. And this is why I wouldn't stay in the game. When we got a lead, Mike said, you want to? I said, no. I said, we're up 21 points with 4 minutes to go. I'm not going to have anybody take any cheap shots, but I tell you this, Skip. Whomever take over this Rams job, Skip, they're going to have to clean house, man. Yeah. Because it's the mentality. Because it's becoming, they're accepting losing. Yeah. Because everybody in that organization, the only thing they've ever done is lose. And so it's becoming commonplace for them to continue to lose. They got to get someone in there that's going to change their entire mentality. They need to go on the field expecting to win, not hoping if we get a punt return or a pick six or a strip sack, we can win. Yeah. We need to take the field expecting to win.
I got it. Last quick point about the Seattle Seahawks. Back to our first question with Richard Sherman. Ray Lewis sat right here a month or so ago and made the case that because of that moment in that Super Bowl, that interception by Malcolm Butler, that was your moment and it passed. And it still strikes me because the Seahawks have been hit and miss all year. Sometimes they rise up and win at New England. Right. That was highly impressive. That looked like the Seahawks. Yeah. But then this doesn't work and they lose Earl Thomas and that doesn't work. And it feels like they missed their boat, missed their moment. Right. Like they're not going to get back to that moment with their current group.
Well, you can certainly tell it's still bothering at least Richard Sherman.
Yeah.
So
it's bothering more than Sherman. I can assure you with that.
Sure Cam Chancellor's right there too.
Yeah.
Before we go, yesterday the sports world lost Craig Sager, a beloved and respected broadcaster for TNT. He was 65. Skip, you knew Craig. What are your thoughts?
I did, Joy, but I want to point out, I didn't know him socially, so we weren't that kind of friends. We were colleagues. And I worked a couple of stories closely with him. And I want to stress to our viewers today who might not quite grasp this, just what a great reporter this man really was. He was smart, he was fearless, he was relentless, he was tough. I worked with him through Michael Jordan's last run to his sixth championship, 1998. One night, Dennis Rodman, going into the next day, went AWOL on those Bulls, and Michael Jordan, whom I knew well, was very upset about it, and they couldn't find him, and he would flip out occasionally, and Craig knew Rodman very well. In fact, Rodman tweeted yesterday thanking Craig for helping save his life back in 1993. And I was astounded by the network of sources that Craig Sager had. And I was also astounded by how fearless he was with his information because he didn't care about protecting. He was a reporter first. He wasn't part of the NBA structure. He was Craig Sager. And that's why it sometimes bothered me that some fans dismissed Craig and his credibility because of his showy attire. Yes. And they dismissed him as sort of a court jester or the class clown when he was everything not that. He was saying with his attire, I'm my own man. This is who I am, and I'm going to do what I do, and I'm going to go solo here, and I'm not like everybody else. And when he would get kidded about it during interviews by players and coaches, he would just ignore it. He would never accept like good-natured acceptance. He would just ignore it and keep firing the next question. Right. So he wouldn't even acknowledge his attire. He would go right on with who he was and what he was doing. And I am going to dearly miss that. And God rest this man's soul, and God bless his family.
Skip, I didn't really know him, but I just remember watching him on TNT. And as you said, the way he dressed didn't make his information any less credible. And it takes a special type of person to give in to what he's wearing and people making fun and joking and somebody, oh, he's a court jester or he's the ice cream man or whatever that may be. But to see him on TNT, a lot of times, if it wasn't a great matchup, you watch that game to actually see what he was going to be wearing. And you're like, for real? Yeah. But that was who he was, and he will be greatly missed because you look at all the people that were posting from LeBron James to the Kobe Bryants to the Magic Johnsons. This man touched a lot of people, and he's going to be missed by a lot of people.
Yes, our thoughts are with his family, with the Turner Sports family, NBA family, who's a legend and an inspiration for sure.
No mercy.
This is the Skip and Shannon Undisputed podcast, where we're delivering you an unscripted, unfiltered, undisputed version of the biggest topics of the day's show. Be sure to subscribe to the podcast on iTunes, like us on Facebook at Undisputed on FS1, follow on Twitter at Undisputed, and catch us at 9:30 a.m. Eastern, 6:30 Pacific, Monday through Friday on FS1. You can find us on channel 219 on DirecTV, 150 on Dish. Thanks for listening, everyone. I'm your host, Joy Taylor. Come back and see us next week for more Undisputed. We'll have Cris Carter and Eric Mangini with us. Have a great weekend, and we'll see you then.
Fox Sports, one of one.